How's it going, YouTube? Hunter Heriot back with another video. So today we're going to be installing a level 2 crash protection kit on my 2019 Honda CBR600RR, which includes frame sliders for the side of the bike, fork sliders for the front, fork sliders for the rear as well, and then handlebar sliders. What this will do is, in case when I go to the track, if I do end up laying down my bike or crashing, my bike should slide along the track and preserve my fairings and the integrity of my bike, versus if you don't have these, sometimes your handlebars can catch, it'll roll end over end, and then your whole bike's destroyed because of one little crash. So let's get into it. First thing we're gonna start off with is these handlebar sliders. So you can see I already took the stock ones off, super easy. You just need a Phillips screwdriver and come off pretty easy. The next thing you'll do is build your frame slider. Should come with a cap right here, a bolt, so you can put the cap over the bolt first, and then the actual slider assembly itself you place over the top. So then you'll have your screw hanging out the bottom, or your bolt hanging out the bottom. And as you can see, there's a little keyway right here, so half of it's missing. And if you come towards the bike, you can see right in the end of the handlebar, there is a keyway there. So you want to match up the keyways as easily as possible. So see how it won't turn. And then you can hand thread in the bolt. And then you're going to use a 5mm Allen key and tighten it all the way to the end. Once you get it there, you want to hold the slider in place and then just hand tight the bolt. So you can go to the other side, and same steps. Stock one is off, just a Phillips screwdriver, and then you need to build it, put the keyway in the same way, then you can tighten it by hand. And a 5mm Allen key to finish it off. Hold it tight with your hand, and then hand tighten it. So the next thing we're gonna install is our fork sliders in the front. So what these will do is protect my rim and my rotors in case I go down, like I said earlier, and keep all that stuff nice so that you can use it again. You don't have to replace all of it if you have a little accident. So the first thing, we're gonna take this bolt off of the right side of the motorcycle. It is a 22mm socket. And as you'll see, this one is solid. It doesn't have any holes in the end. But this one, which is the replacement part, has a hole in the end, which allows you to put this spindle all the way through your front wheel, and then allows you to put the bar ends on for your crash protection. So this one you'll screw back in the same place the old one was, and then we will torque it down to 30 foot-pounds. So place this on. You hear a little click, and you are at 30 foot-pounds. Next thing we're going to do is move to the other side of the bike. We're going to grab the spindle and then the bar end with the little knob on top of it. So what I mean is, these two are a little bit different. So this one is inset, and this one has a little shoulder on it. So this one, we'll go ahead and put the spindle on, screw it all the way on. We will then take our 6mm Allen key and just hold on to the end and just get it a little hand tight. Okay. Next thing we'll do is this pilot hole should go all the way through. So you take the spindle, place it all the way in until that shoulder goes all the way in and it's hanging right there. Then we'll move to the other side of the bike once more. One thing to note too is that on the left side of the bike, you'll have the bolt with the shoulder. That side will also have the frame slider with the shoulder, as well as you'll have the shorter of the two bolts. So the longer of the two bolts and the one that is inset go here. You can reach over to the other side and make sure it's taut. And then you will screw this in to the spindle that is now in the middle. Take your 6mm, screw it all the way in. And for this, you can just go hand tight. There's no torque specs. If it starts to get tight enough, the other side will just rotate. So if you have two 6mm heads, which you can take both sides, rotate them against each other and tighten it up. And there is your fork sliders installed. Okay, the axle block sliders are the next thing I would do. I'm gonna save this install because it requires removal of the axle blocks in the back as well as the tensioners. So you will have to loosen your chain and then mess with your chain geometry a little bit. But I have plans to get a spindle jack for this so that I could jack up the rear of the bike, which makes that much easier, as well as I'm going to do a sprocket kit for my bike, which I'll have to remove my rear tire for anyways. So just for ease of install, kind of kill two birds with one stone, or kill two birds with one stone, there we go. We will save this install for that video. The next thing we're going to install is the frame sliders. What frame sliders will do is protect all of your fairings on your bike if you go down, as well as it'll replace the stock motor mounts. So the tools you'll need for this install, tools and pieces, you need some tape. You will need a drill of some sort with a bit that you can make a pilot hole. You will then need a hole saw that you want it between 1 1/8 and 1/8 and 2 inches. You will need a very small Phillips screwdriver, or you could just use a bit as well, Phillips bit. You need a 5mm Allen key. You will need a ratchet with a 19mm socket, and you will need a torque wrench. You don't have to have one this big, this is just overkill, but you need it to be up to 30 foot-pounds of torque. All right, we're gonna start on the right side of the bike. We'll need to take this bottom fairing piece off. So you'll need your 5mm Allen key, and you'll start loosening here, right where the two meet. You will then need this bottom one right here. You'll then do this back one here. So this back one, you'll see it has a little bit of a shoulder on it as well. So you want to make sure you put that one back in the back spot right here in the correct position. There will also be one up under the tail you can't see, but if you look up under there, it's really easy to see. It's one of the only bolts down here, so loosen that one as well. And this one has a small shoulder as well, just like I showed you, so make sure that one goes in the exact position you got it from. Then you'll switch over to the either drill bit or you'll have the tiny Phillips head screwdriver. There's one right down in the bottom here. And it looks like that. There's a little grommet on it, so that one, make sure you put in the same hole as well. And then there will be one last one that joins these two, and it's right behind, about right here where my finger is. And same thing, you'll use the small screwdriver or a drill bit. This one's a little more difficult to see and to get into, but with enough patience, there you go. And then this whole bottom piece should come off relatively easy. Kind of pull down and out all at the same time. Wiggle it around, and there we go. So this will all stay on. You can get that back on, and we'll take the right side to the table. All right, now that we have the right fairing, or right lower fairing, over to the table, the Womatech kit, Womatech kit that I got has little pilot paper. So you cut it out, and there's little lines, everything like that, and it shows you exactly where to put your hole in that you'll need in your fairing. So this little tab here goes over this notch right here, and these two little cutouts here will go right here. So you want to, on this whole line, it'll line up on this curvature and this whole line. So once you get it fully lined up, you want it up as much as possible, and then these will go there. And we can start working with some tape. Any tape should work. You can work it into the corner. You want to make sure it's as close to the corner as possible and as close to this line as possible, so you get your hole exactly where you need it. And this all fits right up there. You don't have to tape all the way to the end, it's just to get where your pilot hole is going to be. So once you're satisfied with where your pilot hole is going to be, take your drill, and this is the really scary part because I'm starting to cut holes into my beautiful bike, but we'll see how it goes. So you put this right on the center of the paper, and then just drill very slowly. And we are through. So you can take your paper off, and there's your pilot hole. Next thing we're gonna do, we put some tape on here, and we're gonna drill our hole for our spacer to go through. So you're going to use the pilot hole for the bit here, and we're gonna try and hold it kind of at the angle it sits on the bike, so it'll sit on the bike like this, just so we make sure that when our hole is there, it's not wonky and doesn't fit correctly. So we'll take our drill, place the bit in the hole, apply a little bit of pressure, and we are almost all the way through. Come on. And there we go, we're through. So there is your hole in your fairing right there. After your hole in your fairing is cut, the next thing you're gonna do is take this motor mount bolt out, so that when we put the fairing back on, we're gonna replace it with the bolt that it comes with. So your right side of your bike, there's two different lengths of bolts, as well as two different lengths of these spacers. the right side is going to get the shorter side, the left side is going to get the longer pair of the two. It's an 18mm socket. Much better. Jesus. Break it loose. And then it should come all the way out. You don't want to do both sides of the bolt part at the same time because these are your motor mounts. So if you loosen both of them and pull both bolts out at the same time, you'll end up dropping your motor a little bit and it'll sit weird. So just make sure you do one at a time. Okay, so there's a spacer that goes behind here that's going to drop out. So we'll replace that, or we'll place it back in once we put the fairing back on. So keep that in mind. So we'll take the fairing, place it on, and we won't put all the bolts in because if we put the bolts on the bottom end, those connect to both fairings and we got to do the other side. So we'll get this in where it's supposed to go. And then you can put these in just so that it kind of holds itself still. Just go till it's snug and then go just a tiny bit more. Take the other top bolt. Place it in its respective hole. Go to where it's snug and just a little bit more. So now that that is done, you can put your spacer back in there. You can build this so it'll be your actual frame slider itself. The port will go right here in the back of it, and then you have a little washer here. Drop your washer in there, and then your bolt goes all the way through all of that. So you'll place this back in here. It's a little bit difficult. And then make sure your holes line up. Put your spacer in. And you want to get it hand tight first. You'll switch to a 19mm socket and place it on your ratchet. Once it starts getting tight, move to your torque wrench, and you're going to go to 30 foot-pounds again. And there's your click, right there. Last and final thing you'll do for this side is you'll take your little cover and place it right on there. And your right side is installed. All we got to do is put the rest of the screws back in, but we'll wait until we do the other side so that we can have it work. But cool. All right, now we're gonna start on the left side. All right, so now we've moved over to the left side of the bike and we're gonna do the same exact thing, so I won't talk too much. I'll just try and do it real quick. Make sure, again, this has a shoulder, so make sure it goes right in the same hole. This side actually has one less bolt, doesn't have a bolt back here. And then you just have to take the bolt that's back up in here because we already left off the ones on the bottom to make it easy. So grab this. And it'll pop out just like that. And then should be able to take this off. And there is one last bolt hidden back here. has a shoulder as well. And there's your left side. Bring it over to the table. We're gonna do everything we did with the right side, again with our left side. So, with the left fairing, place this on here. And we'll get some tape. Once you're set for where it's at, change the drill bit back, and then we will make another hole. With your pilot hole made, you can remove that. Swap over to the other side, and you'll have the slight hole. We'll tape it up, just like so. Move over to our other drill bit. And we will try and hold this exactly the same way we held the other one, just to make sure that it lines up with the lines of the bike. Once you have your hole made again, we're going to repeat the same process. So we're going to take this bolt out. Stock bolt, 18 millimeter. You're going to take that out for your mount. Once you get your bolt all the way out, you're going to build your frame slider. So you're going to use the longer of the two spacers, press it in here. You're going to use the washer, place it down in here, just like that. And the longer of the two bolts. Once your connection is built, you're going to go ahead and put your fairing back on, and just a couple bolts to hold it still. And then you're going to take your assembly here, place it through the hole. And start tightening. Once it gets semi-tight, take your torque wrench, 19 millimeter socket, and tighten this one to 30 foot-pounds. Right there. There we go. So after that's installed, you just put all your little bits and pieces back together, and then you have your frame sliders all completely installed. You have your fork sliders installed, and your handlebars sliders all installed as well. Last thing to do, put the cap on, and we are good to go. So if you guys like the video, please leave a like, please subscribe, comment on the video, anything I could have done a little better, anything you'd like to see for my bike, as well as you can share with some friends. It'd be very helpful. I appreciate all of you guys, and I just want to leave with you, like I've said before, if you're going to build something, do it for yourself and nobody else. Thanks.